Part 51. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi Y. Chapter 501. In the Feng family manor, the young master of the family got married, and everyone in the manor was extremely happy. The manor was full of flowers, decorated with lights, and filled with a joyful and lively atmosphere. At the door, there were 2 rows of well-dressed waiters on both sides. Feng Tanggui stood at the front, welcoming guests with a smile on her face. Guests wearing elegant dresses handed over invitations one after another and entered the manor, and Feng Tanggui only had to be a smiling invitation receiver. Suddenly, the pleasant smile on Feng Tanggui's face faded. She frowned and stared at the woman walking in front of her with dissatisfaction, and said in a low-pitched voice, "Qin Yushan, what are you doing here? I don't have anything at home. I sent you an invitation letter." Qin Yushan's heavily made-up face still couldn't hide her haggardness, and her elegant and beautiful face had become indelibly gloomy and cold this year. Look at what she was wearing, although it was still jewel-like and worthless. Fei, but anyone with a discerning eye can see that her clothes and jewelry are all a bit outdated. Feng Tanggui had a good memory and recognized that the blue elegant dress she was wearing was worn by Qin Yushan at a banquet. Suddenly she looked at Qin Yushan with a slightly subtle look, a little more gloating. It seemed that Qin Yushan was not having a good year. But what surprised her was that Qin Yushan, who used to be arrogant, elegant, and arrogant, didn't even say anything this time. She just stared at him with her gloomy eyes, as dark as a deep pool, without any emotion. Feng Tanggui shook her body subconsciously, wondering what was going on with the underworld aura of Qin Yushan, a woman who looked chilly and hairy all over. At this time, a woman next to Qin Yushan, wearing a white plush fairy dress, with a delicate appearance and a gentle and elegant smile, stretched out her hand and handed out an invitation letter. "Miss Feng, I have an invitation letter here. I am the one bringing the Jade Shan came here." Feng Tanggui glanced at her and frowned. "Shui Ying's in from the Shui family." Shui Ying smiled and nodded slightly to her. "One invitation letter can bring one companion. I brought the 3rd princess, so it should be no problem." Feng Tanggui took the invitation and snorted, no problem, but Qin Yushan has some conflicts with our family. You have to be careful when you bring people in. Today is a special day. Our Feng family, no one is allowed to mess up our wedding." Shui Yingzhen's smile did not change. She was still pretty, and she said in a gentle and friendly manner, "Miss Feng, don't worry, the 3rd princess is also a princess after all. She has a noble status and will not act randomly like ordinary people in the market. I just see her being bored all the time. The room was not very good, so I took her out for a walk." Feng Tanggui twitched his lips, not sure whether he believed it or not. He just made a please gesture and didn't bother to talk to them. The smile on Shui Yingzhen's face froze. She pursed her lips in dissatisfaction, then took a deep breath and pulled Qin Yushan in with displeased eyes. Feng Tanggui turned to look at the backs of the 2 people walking into the manor, and murmured suspiciously, "Humph, just come out and walk around, what a liar. There must be something wrong with this woman Qin Yushan. No, I have to find someone to watch them. They cannot be asked to ruin the wedding ceremony of my sister-in-law and cousin." "Do you want to know why Shui Yingzhen and Qin Yushan are together?" A female voice came from her ears, and Feng Tanggui was excited. She turned her head subconsciously and met a bright and smiling face. Her eyes suddenly lit up and she nodded like a chicken pecking rice. "Think about it, Lin Guiyan, you know what happened to them." Lin Guiyan raised her bright red lips and smiled. "I know, many people outside already know." Feng Tanggui immediately took her hand and urged with bright eyes, "Hurry, tell me, tell me." Lin Guiyan's lips curled up. "Do you know who Qin Yushan's previous fiancée was?" Feng Tanggui nodded directly. "I know, isn't it the Bai Qinjun from the Bai family?" Lin Guiyan: "Yes, that's him. You must know that Bai Qinjun's father is Bai Zhuangquan." Bai Zhuangquan colluded with the Orc Empire to try to kill the real heir of Duke Bai, your sister-in-law. After the return of several legions yesterday, the verdict has also come down. He has been labeled a traitor, and all the property in his name will be transferred back to your sister-in-law, so Bai Zhuangquan is finished, and Bai Zhuangquan's son Bai Chenjun is also finished. Although Bai Chenjun was not involved in the betrayal of the empire, without Bai Zhuangquan he would be nothing. Naturally, he would not be able to afford the 60 billion dowry gift for marrying Qin Yushan. What's more, he still has the reputation of being the son of a traitor. Even if she could come up with a betrothal gift, Qin Yushan would definitely not marry him again because of her arrogance. So the engagement between the two of them was naturally broken. Not long after the news of Bai Zhuangquan's trial and conviction came out yesterday, Qin Yushan went to court in person in the evening. The Bai family has broken off their engagement, and everyone in the circle that caused this incident knows about it. After hearing this, Feng Tanggui scorned Qin Yushan for being so ugly and not even able to save face, and she was curious, but what does this matter have to do with Qin Yushan and Shui Yingzhen being mixed together? Isn't that woman Shui Yingzhen? She has always claimed to be His Royal Highness's childhood sweetheart and future crown princess. She should not bother to make friends with a princess like Qin Yushan who has fallen off the altar. What's more, this is my cousin's wedding. If she brings Qin Yushan over, Qin Yushan will cause trouble. Something happened to offend my cousin, and given the relationship between my cousin and His Royal Highness, she can't get over it. Seeing that no one was coming from behind, Lin Guiyan pulled Feng Tanggui aside and said with a low smile, "It's not just about Shui Ying's wish or not, she must be willing." "Oh, what do you say?" Feng Tanggui became curious and pulled Lin Guiyan to walk aside. She simply left the matter of receiving invitations and welcoming guests to the housekeeper, and went to hide and gossip. Lin Guiyan did not disappoint her either, letting her hear quite exciting gossip. It turned out that it was due to the financial shortage of the Shui family. After it was reported that the second son of the Shui family, Shui Ziyu, was drugged and hypnotized by Fox Spirit Mei, the head of the Shui family, Shui Chongshan, immediately realized the seriousness of the matter. Before he returned to the main star, he quickly asked his subordinates to investigate during Mizusawa's trip some time ago, who did he come into contact with and did what he did. Who would have known if he had not checked, but when he checked, he was shocked to find that what Mizusawa did during the period of being controlled by hypnosis was far beyond his imagination. First of all, it was the property in Mizusawa's own name. Not only was the account empty, but his name was also all the company investments he made were empty shells, and he owed countless debts. In addition, Shui Chongshan, as the second young master of the Shui family, also emptied all the working capital on the books of the companies under the Shui family, and owed tens of billions in loans. Now Shui Chongshan has used his own property and personal companies to even selling it cannot fill this huge vacancy. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 502. Once several important pillar companies of the Shui family collapse and no financial support is available, the Shui family will be left with nothing but castles in the air. Later, it will even implicate the Fourth Army controlled by the Shui family, leading to instability in military power and destabilizing the Shui family. Family Foundation. Therefore, the current situation of the Shui family is very critical. If the Shui family cannot solve the problem, they can only seek help from the outside world. The Zhao family, who is in law with the Shui family and has very strong financial resources, has become the current target of the Shui family. As long as the Zhao family injects enough funds, the Shui family can quickly come back to life. But although the Zhao family is rich, they are not stupid. If they want to save the Shui family, they need to invest at least 1/3 of the Zhao family's property, which most people will not do. So the head of the Shui family planned to attack the weakness of the head of the Zhao family. The head of the Zhao family had a silly little son named Zhao Xiaobao, who was the only son of the Zhao family. Even though he was stupid, the Zhao family was still like jewels since he was a child. Zhao Xiaobeo's marriage has become a big problem. The Zhao family, to whom the woman is willing to marry, despises the fact that the woman is greedy for wealth and comes from a lowly background. But if the woman is from a noble background and has good conditions, who would be willing to marry a fool? What's more, although the Zhao family is rich, they are just businessmen with little power. Even if they are married, they will not choose his family, so Zhao Xiaobeo has not married a wife yet. So Shui Chongshan set his sights on the third princess Qin Yushan. Qin Yushan went to the Bai family to break off the engagement last night, which destined her reputation to fall to the bottom. I heard that the other families who were willing to pay 60 billion to marry her have all released the news, and they are unwilling to marry such a person again. What an ungrateful woman. The relationship between Bai Qianjun and Qin Yushan is no longer a secret. Back then, Qin Yushan hired a murderer and her reputation was ruined. Bai Qianjun turned back as a prodigal son. Not only did he not dislike her, he also accepted the first military academy under the pressure of his biological father and never left her. I will marry her even if I give up. The two of them were originally engaged, but who would have known that as soon as the news of Bai Qianjun's father's treason came out, Qin Yushan, a woman, chose to break off the engagement without mercy and decided to go their separate ways when the disaster came. Who would spend such a large amount of star coins on such a cold-blooded woman? Marry, even if they want to improve their bloodline, no one dares to do so. So Qin Yushan was completely reduced to a position that no one wanted or dared to live in. She was notorious for a while, but her identity and bloodline were still there, and the Zhao family was a family that valued bloodline. So when Shui Chongshan mentioned this, the Zhao family really agreed, and promised that if the Shui family made this matchmaker, the Zhao family would be willing to invest. So no, the Shui family tried their best to make this matchmaking match. Qin Yushan also knew her own situation and agreed without thinking for long, but she had one request. She needed the Shui family to bring her to participate in Bai Qianchun and Feng Feng's meeting. Yu's wedding is a matter of life and death for the entire Shui family. Who cares about Shui Yingxin's favorability with His Highness the Crown Prince? That's why the incident happened just now. Feng Tanggui was astonished when she heard this. It's tragic. I didn't expect Qin Yushan to be so miserable now. She was reduced to marrying a fool. What do you think she is doing? Bai Qianjun's father is treason. Bai Qianjun is not ignorant, nor is he. It's implicated. Why is she so anxious? She can find other ways to break off the engagement later. Lin Guiyan crossed her arms and raised her eyebrows slightly. How would I know? Her brain has been shut down. In the deep alley in the backyard, Bai Qianchun held up the hem of her wedding dress, with a smile on her exquisitely made-up face. She walked in small steps to the tall and charming man in front of her, smiled, and threw herself into him. In the embrace of open arms, a pleasant voice leaned against his chest with a smile and asked, "Why are you here with me?" With his bride in his arms, Feng Yuyu narrowed his peach blossom eyes with a satisfied smile. Then his Adam's apple rolled twice. He held Bai Qianchun's shoulders, lowered his head and kissed her forehead, and then hugged her again. Returning to his arms, a magnetic low-pitched laughter sounded from above. I want to see my bride as early as possible. I can't make it easier for those who are watching the ceremony to see her at the same time as me. Childish Bai Qianchun rolled her eyes and pushed his chest with her hand in a funny way. Well, if you're careful now, I'll go back. No, Feng Yuyu hugged him back again, half smiling and half coaxing. Actually, I'm here to tell you a surprise. Bai Qianchun's delicately painted eyebrows were slightly raised, and she leaned in his arms without moving. What's the surprise? Sister, they are here. Eldest sister. Bai Qianchun was confused. Which eldest sister? Sister Su Lianhua and the others. Feng Yuyu raised his hand and caressed her thin back, saying with deep affection in his peach blossom eyes, not long after our legion left the border, News came from the Orc Empire. In order to express our gratitude, sincerely, I am willing to send Prince Hushayu to our Huayao Empire to live as a hostage for a long time. Sister Su Lianhua and Lu Wang are the accompanying guards. They will arrive at the main star today. I have already sent people to pick them up. If nothing unexpected happens, they're coming to our wedding. Bai Qianchun's eyes suddenly lit up, and her voice was filled with joy. Sister, they are really here. When did you know about it? They actually hid it from me. Eldest sister and the others had told her before when they escorted Fox 14 back that they would find a way to come to Huayao to find her. She originally planned to invite eldest sister and the others to the wedding on Wuyuan planet. If eldest sister and the others were unable to make it in time, I postponed it, but I didn't expect them to come so quickly and catch up with the main star's wedding. This is indeed a big surprise. Fen Yuyu's eyebrows stretched with pleasure because of her happiness. It wasn't that long ago, just 3 days ago. On the deserted star, he could tell that Su Lianhua's people had different meanings to her. Although he didn't know what the connection was between them, it did not prevent him from knowing how to do what they wanted. Compared to those few people who directly showed up at the wedding to surprise her, Fen Yuyu felt that he could secretly grab the credit. As far as he was concerned, now, the effect was very good and his wife was happy. Fen Yuyu was holding someone in his arms, and wanted to lower his head and kiss her beautiful, moist mouth for a reward, but as soon as he lowered his head halfway, he heard 2 footsteps coming from the other side of the dense green plants. There was a threatening voice, Qin Yushan, I'm warning you, don't think about causing any trouble by playing tricks today. On the other side of the green plant, Fen Yuyu, who was holding Bai Qianchun's small face, paused. Looking at the beautiful lips that were so close but avoided, his face darkened, and his peach blossom eyes looked gloomily in the direction of the sound. Just listen to Qin Yushan's gloomy laughter, Shui Yingzin, don't talk to me in such a condescending manner. What qualifications do you have to warn me? The person begging me now is your Shui family. Don't think that I don't know. It was your Shui family last night. It's my fault. You deliberately set me up, made a time lag, and told me that Bai Zhuangken's matter involved Bai Qianjun before I knew that Bai Zhuangken's trial had been completed. Otherwise, how could I have been so stupid to break off the engagement overnight? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luziy. Chapter 503. Shui Yingzin's pretty face was gloomy, full of gloom. Qin Yushan, you have no choice now. Regardless of whether my Shui family designed the incident or not, you have no way out now. Qin Yushan sneered darkly, oh, whether I have a way out or not is up to you. The voice on the other end of the green plant gradually faded away. Bai Qianchun, who was leaning on Fen Yuyu's arms, narrowed his eyes. His thick and curled eyelashes trembled slightly like fluttering butterflies. The expression on his delicate and beautiful face was thoughtful. The Shui family really did you plot against Qin Yushan? Why? In Bai Qianchun's impression, the Shui family and Qin Yushan had an incomparable relationship. Fen Yuyu has many capable people under his command, including some who have been placed in the Shui family, and they really know some inside information. The pupils in his peach blossom eyes were dark, and he reluctantly lowered his head and pecked the seductive little mouth, and then slowly said, it's for the assets of the Zhao family, probably. The Shui family has suffered a serious loss due to Shui Ziyu. The Zhao family is rich, so the Shui family takes a fancy to the Zhao family's wealth. Marrying Qin Yushan to the stupid son of the Zhao family is a bridge for their 2 families to cooperate. The matter of Qin Yushan going to the Bai family to cancel her engagement last night was indeed the fault of the Shui family. The old fox is scheming. What Qin Yushan said just now is right. Bai Qianchun's eyes lit up. Not only did he not sympathize with Qin Yushin's experience, but he was very interested. Well, a fool is more than good enough for her. Bai Qianjun escaped. By the way, what about the stupid son of the Zhao family? Will he be a good match for Qin Yushin? Are you feeling aggrieved? You must know that Qin Yushin is not a fuel-efficient lamp. If the fool is just an innocent and kind fool, then a vicious woman like Qin Yushin will really wrong him. From a moral perspective, what is wrong with the fool? He is just a little stupid. He is obviously evil-minded and not worthy of being kind. Feng Yuyu raised the corner of his mouth, understanding what she meant, patted her back gently, and said comfortingly, "Don't worry, that fool from the Zhao family is not an ordinary kind-hearted fool. He is relatively favored, and the Zhao family treats him very much. He is conniving, so he has a very bad temper, and he cannot afford to suffer a loss with Qin Yushin." "Oh, that's good." Bai Qianchun breathed a sigh of relief, then as if thinking of something, she raised her head and looked at Feng Yuyu's face. "By the way, there are rumors that Shui Yingxin is our cousin's Qin Meizuma, the future crown princess. From what she said just now, it is obvious that she is not as innocent, kind, gentle, and pleasant as the rumors say. Does our cousin know her disguise? What if she was deceived?" "Don't worry, I recorded the audio and will send a copy to my cousin later." Feng Yuyu looked at her beautiful face and said absently, "As for the fact that Shui Yingxin is the future princess, it is probably not true." "Yes, I have never heard my cousin mention it. He is busy with official duties all day long, and his mind is filled with official duties, and is as busy as an old scalper. Even today, he was dragged into the army and couldn't come too early to follow me. If you're sorry, you don't have time to talk about love. Those rumors about the prince's fiancé are probably spread by Shui Yingxin or the Shui family." "That's good." Seeing her really worried look, Feng Yuyu felt unhappy that the little wife in his arms was getting married to him today, but he was always thinking about other people. Just now it was Qin Yushin, and now it's his cousin. So he hugged her, holding her waist. He brought his face towards her, his eyes darkened, and he said in a low voice, "Daughter-in-law, don't think about other messy things. Your husband is here. Think of me more." As he spoke, he directly pressed his face down, focused on the red lips, and crushed them hard. Bai Qianchun snorted unprepared. She blushed for a while, then gradually relaxed her body, hugged his waist with her hands, and let him do whatever he wanted on her lips. "Humph, this man has quite a bad temper," Bai Qianchun thought with a smile on her lips. On the quiet path in the backyard, red satin is hung on the treetops on both sides, and the gorgeous roses in the grass on both sides are charming and exude the fragrance of love. Under the red satin, on the cobblestone path in the center of the rose bushes, a tall and enchanting man in a black suit hugged a holy and beautiful woman in a white wedding dress, kissing her inseparably. Behind the corner not far away, there is a row of heads standing on end, secretly peeking in this direction. Ya Yang patted the shoulder of the person underneath him with his hand. "Hey, brother Yao, it's almost time. Why don't you go and shout? The wedding will start soon, but the bride and groom are nowhere to be seen." Feng Tanggui covered her eyes with her hands, rubbing them secretly, leaving a gap between her two fingers to peek shyly. Hearing this, she nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Yes, my cousin and sister-in-law kissed so fiercely, and my sister-in-law's makeup, it must have taken a lot of money, and I still need to touch up my makeup. If I don't call them, they might be late." The expression on Yao Wengxian's elegant and handsome face was a little cracked, and he lowered his voice and said, "Why don't you shout? Feng Xiao is currently holding his sweetheart and chewing on his head. If you interrupt him at this time, any fool will know what will happen." Although Yao Wengxian is usually very talkative and often exchanges jokes with Feng Yuyu, but this matter was different between the past and now. The nature is different. Wei Liang Chen, who was at the top, raised his eyes and said with a gentle smile, "Since brother Yao doesn't want it, We can't force it? Yao Wengxian breathed a sigh of relief, but before he could finish breathing, he heard Wei Liangchen continue, but we can't be careless about the wedding. It's necessary for one of us to call them out, so it's better to do this. Let's go directly point to people, whoever has the most votes will shout. His words were immediately responded to by several heads, which retracted their heads one by one, and then several fingers immediately pointed at the person. Yao Wengxian was pointed at Yao Wengxian with 8 fingers. Looking at the young man with a bright smile, Yao Wengxian gritted his teeth. This boy was retreating in order to advance. The most treacherous adjutant of the 9th Army was indeed right. Yao Wengxian forced a smile on his face, took a deep breath, and said with a heavy face, "Okay, I'll go." What happened next can be imagined. Fen Yuyu, who was disturbed from his good deeds, pressed Bai Qianchun into his arms with a gloomy face. He looked at the person who ruined his good deeds with fierce eyes, as if his partner was coveted. The wolf glared at Yao Wengxian with a pair of fierce eyes. Yao Wengxian was frightened and directly arranged a job for himself on the spot, which made Fen Yuyu lower his temper. "Yao Wengxian, I haven't posted anything these days. I sealed Xiao a heterosexual and inhumane guy, in order to avoid being resented by this guy. He felt that he needed to work as an expat to avoid the limelight and wait for them to fight with each other. Come back after the honeymoon period is over." After watching Mr. Fen Yuyu send Bai Qianchun back thoughtfully, the few people hiding behind the wall dared to come out and gave Yao Wengxian a thumbs up one by one. "Brother, you are still smart. Yao Wengxian is a smiley man, and he is so clever that he has to be exiled. Fortunately, he originally wanted to go to that place himself, so it doesn't matter if he goes earlier. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs." Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 504. The sky was clear, under the blue sky and white clouds, the elegant wedding march was floating and echoing lightly, and pink, white, and red heart-shaped balloons were released one after another, floating in the air. There was a long red carpet in the center of the open green lawn, and there were gorgeous chairs. The seats were already full of guests who came to watch the ceremony. There were still many people standing scattered on both sides of the lawn. At this time, they all looked in the direction of the arch formed by the roses. Today the 2 protagonists appear. Fen Yuyu is dressed in a black suit, with broad shoulders, narrow waist and long legs. He has an excellent male figure and a delicate rose on his chest. It complements his handsome face with a devilish smile. He is also known as the most beautiful man in the empire. It's not a lie. Today, Fen Yuyu is still dignified and handsome, but a little less lazy and carefree, and a little more mysterious and solemn. There is a smile in his peach blossom eyes that are more serious and focused than usual, and he glances sideways after taking 2 steps with his long legs. Looking at the bride beside me, I felt nervous and excited that my bride would fly away if I didn't watch her carefully. I put my arms on the waist of the person next to me in a strong posture. Both his eyes and movements show his strong possessiveness towards the bride beside him. As for the bride Bai Qianchun, she was wearing a white and holy wedding dress today. The red rose-shaped patterns and ruby thorns embroidered on the wedding dress made her eyes hurt. Fen Yuyu pampered and protected her but could not hide her. An aura that cannot be underestimated. As the Star Master of Muyuan, the real leader of the 9th Legion, and the only female duke in the Beidou Palace, no one can cover up her edge, not even Fen Yuyu, the young master of the Feng family. At this time, she had a pair of clear and round peach blossom eyes with raised eyeliner, making her beautiful and charming. The exquisite makeup outlined her eyebrows, making her already beautiful face even more beautiful and beautiful, as if flowers were in full bloom. She smiled softly. It's like hearing the sound of flowers blooming. With her delicate white veil flying, she looked a little more domineering than usual when dressed up, making people truly aware of her identity. His gaze shifted slightly downwards, and he saw a pair of flawless beautiful hands holding a bouquet of roses. Each of the fingers resting on the green branches was neatly trimmed, exuding a touch of pearls. Color, white, soft and beautiful. Suddenly there were excited whispers all around. Hiss, the groom is a monster and the bride is also a stunning beauty. This pair must be so delicious. Both of them are star masters, dukes, and legion leaders. MMMP, they join forces, and they are together because of love. They feel more powerful than the previous pairing of Marshal Huo and Major General Sheng Baining. I declare, by seeing the Lord and Little Lord Feng are the strongest couple in Huayao Star. Young Lord Feng has such a venomous mouth that he can still find such a good wife. I don't accept it. Leave Lord White Star alone and let me do it. Shut up, you idiot. Lord Feng is looking at you with an 80-meter machete. It doesn't matter if he chops you. The most important thing is not to harm Chi Yu. I'm wearing this to attend this wedding, damn it. I'm wearing tight pants, and then I have to do a split when the 80-meter long sword is slashed, and my crotch is split to get out of the way. Ha ha ha, it's a joke, brother. Tisk, 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 look at the way Mr. Feng is holding his arms around her waist. He is too possessive. Let's see if there are any idiots who say they are a plastic couple. I remember last year, no, the year before last, there were rumors about Mr. Feng. The lordship likes Major General Baining. He only married his wife for perfunctory purposes. Can it be perfunctory to look at him now? He is clearly in love. I know about this. Weren't we already spreading these rumors that were spread by the third princess Qin Yushin? I just saw Qin Yushin coming to the scene. How about we form a team to ask? Is this really good? Isn't this just rubbing salt into the wounds of the third princess? Haha, she still needs us to spread the salt. She spread the salt herself last night. I heard that the Shui family is going to introduce her to marry a fool. Hey, there is such a tragic thing, come on, tell us, we will all be happy together. Your gloating is too obvious, hurry up. Yes, let's look at the protagonists of today's wedding. Hey, they took an oath and put on rings. The most important thing is here. They kissed. This is too sweet. The scene suddenly became excited and high-spirited, shouts and blessings were emitted, and the atmosphere became lively and joyful. The graceful breeze carried carnival and blessings, and also blew the fragrance of flowers. Hey, something flew down. Damn, it's rose petals, so romantic. Immersed in the romantic scene where countless rose petals were scattered and flying between the bride and groom kissing, several guests who came to watch the ceremony discovered the highlight. Smell it, the rose petals sprinkled on top are so fragrant, the petals are so big, smell it, it just feels delicious. It is said that they are specially transported roses from Huayao Star. They are edible. Let me try them. Hiss, they taste really good. I also tasted it, and I actually tasted milk, rose milk, and it tastes great. Please be merciful and leave me a petal. So a group of gorgeously dressed guests almost got into a fight to grab the rose petals scattered in the sky. Fortunately, more and more rose petals were scattered, and everyone no longer had to fight. After a while, the gorgeous rose petals covered the entire sky and the lawn was dyed red, and the people underneath were almost buried. Feng Yuyu stood in front of Bai Jianchun, with a soft light in her peach blossom eyes. She stretched out her hand to carefully remove the rose petals on her head. Bai Jianchun looked at the eldest sister who was happily eating petals in the audience. People laughed. Feng Yuyu put her face close to hers, put his chin on her shoulder coquettishly, and then asked in a low and magnetic voice, "What are you laughing at?" Bai Jianchun looked away, raised her eyes and looked at the man in front of her with a smile. "I also want to taste the petals." Feng Yuyu paused when he was about to throw away the petals, stuffed it into his mouth and bit half of it, then moved his face towards her, with bright peach blossom eyes, eager to try. Come on, try it. Bai Qian-chun raised her hand and pushed his face, avoided it with a smile and glared at him helplessly. You need to show some face in public. Feng Yuyu said that face is nothing, he still wants to show off his love and declare his sovereignty in front of the public, so as to prevent his wife from being missed by the wildflowers and weeds outside. But seeing that his wife seemed a little shy, he had no choice but to give up with regret, rolled the rose petals into his mouth, chewed them, then leaned into her ear and whispered, I will feed you when I go back to the room that night. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 505. Unsurprisingly, the little moves between Feng Yuyu and Bai Qian-chun all fell in the eyes of those who paid attention to them. Feng Lanyan looked at the flirting and matching couple on the stage, her gentle and sweet face filled with joy. Sitting next to her was the Empress Feng Wan, who had specially come out of the palace to attend the wedding. Xian, the Emperor and Empress also had a smile on their graceful and noble faces, showing their kindness. Sister, you can rest assured now. Yu and his wife are a perfect match and their relationship is very good. Maybe you will be able to have a grandson in 2 years. Feng Wangxian had an aunt's smile on her face. The more she looked at the top-looking young couple on the stage, the more satisfied she became. She could already imagine how beautiful their children would be in the future. She was really bored in the palace all year round. Recently, the wife of Yu took action and found out Qin Yujin. She also pulled out the 4th prince, the original 3rd prince, and the 5th prince like a carrot. The things his mother and concubine did in the gutter were also exposed in front of everyone. Only his son could withstand the test without being found out anything that would shake his status. So although her son was a little affected by Qin Yujin this time, it was generally a good thing. Several other princes were useless because of those things, and her son's position as the prince of the empire became more stable. Therefore, in the past, she could still find concubine Lin and concubine Li to amuse and pass the time in the palace. But recently, these women have all become honest and huddled in their rooms. Even if she wanted to find them, I can't find anyone to play with. Moreover, playing with those women all year round was boring for her, and it was not as interesting as raising a child. It's a pity that her son is not enlightened and doesn't even have a wife, let alone a child. Thinking of this, she looked at her sister with a hint of envy. Her husband was good-looking, dedicated, and coaxing. In the past, she would worry that her son would take away the girl with his venomous words, and the girl might have to be single for the rest of her life. But now, her son and his wife are all married. She is still such a beautiful and capable daughter-in-law, and her grandchildren will be born soon. This sister of hers is truly a winner in life. Thinking of this, Feng Wangxian glared at Qin Yuchen with hatred. Qin Yuchen, who hurried over in a hurry and just sat down, felt his scalp numb. Could it be that his mother saw her cousin getting married and thought of his marriage again, right? Qin Yuchen moved sideways, refusing to accept the gaze urging marriage. Feng Lanyan heard her sister's words that seemed to be envious. She smiled softly and said, "Don't worry about the grandson. They are still young. It will be better for the two of us to live together for a few more years. When we have children in the future, it will be difficult for them to want to have a world of two again. I regretted getting pregnant so early." Tisk tisk. Feng Wangxian looked at her and chuckled, lowering her eyes thoughtfully. "You are right, the young couple really have to live in a world of two, and it is not a bad thing for the child to come later. I suffered the disadvantage of being pregnant too early. If she hadn't been pregnant in the first place, how could the vixen have taken advantage of her?" When she thought of the investigation from Qin Yujin about what Hu Lingmei had done, she felt panicked. If it weren't for Hu Lingmei's vixen, there might not be those mistresses like concubine Lin and concubine Li now. 4 and 5. Feng Lanyan knew what she was thinking as soon as he heard this. He smiled and took her hand. Okay, the wedding ceremony is over. It's time to start the banquet. Today's ingredients are all transported from Ziokun's Muyuan planet. Including meat, those chickens and sheep were all raised on the grass of the Muyuan planet, and the meat tastes better than that on the Huana planet. It tastes particularly delicious, so you should eat more in a while. Oh, really? Then I have to give it a try. Feng Wangxian put a cheerful smile on her face again, got up, and walked out. The Feng family's manor was very large, divided into 2 yards. Previously, the wedding was held on the lawn in the front yard of the manor, and the dining table was arranged on the green lawn at the back of the manor. At this time, the place was surrounded by long tables. It was arranged like a large flowing mat. Feng Lanyan pulled Feng Wangxian, followed by Feng Tingyu, who looked doting on her face, to sit down on the flowing water mat facing the east. One after another delicious dishes passed on the conveyor table in front of them, including lamb chops that were fragrant with cumin, green and tender assorted vegetables, beautiful and sweet red bean ball soup, shiny soy sauce flavored elbows, and crispy crumbs. Rose flour cake. Looking around, thousands of different dishes with rich colors and rich aromas are flowing in front of the guests on the conveyor belt. The scene is extremely spectacular and is simply a visual feast. Okay, this running water mat is fresh. Feng Wangxian became interested, put aside her worries, picked up the chopsticks, and began to pick up the dishes with great interest. She also asked her son sitting on her right to pick up the dishes for her, for fear that she would miss one of the dishes. His Majesty the Emperor, who was sitting a few seats in front, was completely forgotten by her. Seeing how delicious his mother's food was, Qin Yuchen secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He just didn't mention urging the marriage. He really didn't know what to do if he did. In the past, there was no one in his heart who could refuse directly, and he even planned to if he really couldn't bear the pressure from his mother to get married, he was going to let her choose the one that suited her. But now, a bright and sassy face flashed across Qin Yuchen's mind, and he subconsciously turned his head to look for that person on the table. In addition to the seats where Feng Yuyu and Bai Qianchun were sitting on the flowing water mat that attracted the most attention, the other seat that received the most attention was the seat near the west, where several orcs from the Orc Empire sat. Of course, they are getting attention now not because of who they are, but because of their extraordinary appetites. They can eat it. One person can clear a plate of lamb chops. A large bowl of pork knuckles bigger than a fist was also snatched away by a few of them. Even the emerald green cabbage can be eaten quickly by them. The faces of the guests sitting next to them turned green. These people from the Orc Empire came directly to a disc operation. They ate hundreds of discs in a row and they were not full yet. People who were close to them carefully observed the stomachs of these friends from the Orc Empire. Oh, haha. The drum actually didn't even bulge, which means they can still eat. So the guests sitting next to them were not very satisfied. Everyone in front of them had finished their dishes, so what would they eat? Licking the plate? Su Lianhua and Hu Sheiyu, who were chewing meat, noticed the dissatisfied looks of these people, and felt a little embarrassed. They moved a little slower, leaving a few pieces of meat on the plate, but they couldn't help the few orc guards they brought over. They only focus on eating and don't know what shame is. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 506. As soon as the orc guards took a bite of the food, they were astonished and said that they had never tasted such delicious food in their entire lives. Then they turned on the crazy swallowing mode and saw that Su Lianhua and Hu Sheiyu still had some left over. Son, their eyes lit up immediately and several pairs of chopsticks were served together. Well, everything that was left in the teeth of Su Lianhua and the others was gone. Looking at the stack of empty plates getting higher and higher, not only their first guest, but also the other guests cast surprised glances. My dear, this is so delicious. I finally understand why the Orc Empire is trying so hard to seize the territory of our Huayao Empire. It's probably because they don't have enough food. I heard that most of the Orc Empire's supplies are from the Desert Star. There are very few. How can we afford to support so many big eaters? Look at how they even eat the prince without any appearance. This shows that the general situation in their Orc Empire is that they are poor little people who don't have enough to eat. So the people sitting next to them who were angry and dissatisfied just now looked at them with subtle eyes, and even showed a little sympathy. Oh, it turns out that they have never had enough to eat. Even the children in the orphanage in their Huayao Empire, he is living a better life than them. Why does he feel a little superior for no reason? Facing those big sympathetic eyes, Su Lian, who was bright and cheerful face, blinked with confusion. What's going on? Didn't you just stare at them? Qin Yuchen looked at the blank expression on her face, lowered his head and chuckled twice. On the battlefield, he was sharp, killing enemies neatly, but when he ate, he looked silly, which was so cute. Eat this shrimp. Feng Yuyu virtuously peeled off a shrimp and put it in Baiqian Chun's bowl. He said with a gentle smile in a low voice, but Baiqian Chun's attention was not on the food at this time, but on the food. He was looking at something with squinted eyes. Feng Yuyu subconsciously turned his head and looked in her direction, and asked suspiciously, "What are you looking at? Which little goblin dares to seduce his wife?" Looking at the eldest sister and the others, I almost forgot about their current appetite. Eating on such a flowing table may not be suitable for them. Baiqian Chunzi frowned slightly. Looking at the eldest sister and the others who were surrounded by countless people, she was a little worried. Now is the early stage of establishing diplomatic relations between the Huayao Empire and the Orc Empire. As members of the Orc Empire, the eldest sister and the others will inevitably encounter some strange looks when they appear here. She is worried that the eldest sister and the others will be wronged. Feng Yuyu knew how much she valued those orcs, and she looked a little more solemn. It's my fault. I didn't arrange them well. I asked someone to add another serving point behind the eldest sister and the others. Baiqian Chun's eyelashes trembled slightly. Well, let's arrange it this way. It's not that she doesn't want to make special arrangements for the eldest sister and the others, but again, the identity of the orcs is still sensitive now. If they open another table, it will only draw more attention to the eldest sister and the others, and what she wants is to integrate the orcs Empire, making orcs normal in the Huayao Empire. So being special is not good. What we need to do now is to integrate. Feng Yuyu's suggestion is just right. She turned her head and looked at the man with soft eyes. Thank you. Feng Yuyu raised his lips and smiled, then he pretended to be serious and said, just verbal thanks? I want something practical. Baiqian Chun looked at the corners of his curled mouth, smiled, leaned forward and kissed him. Isn't this practical enough? Feng Yuyu smiled dizzy, but quickly came back to his senses, coughed slightly, and pretended to be serious. It's not enough, just do it again tonight. Qin Yutang and Feng Tanggui, who were sitting a distance apart, looked at each other and clicked their tongues. Feng Tanggui's face turned red and she muttered, my cousin and sister-in-law are so sweet when they sprinkle sugar. They don't even consider the feelings of singles like us who were accidentally injured. Qin Yutang glanced at her, smiled brightly and said jokingly, don't count me in, I'm not single. Feng Tanggui came over gossiping, cousin, are you in trouble? Yes, Qin Yutang showed an appreciative smile, I'm with that guy Shen Donghui. Maybe you should come to drink our wedding wine in half a year. Feng Tanggui's eyes suddenly lit up, congratulations, cousin. After a feast of wine and food, the satisfied and happy guests came over one after another to send blessings to the two newlyweds, and then dispersed to wander around the manor and play games. After the wedding ceremony of the Huayao Empire, the newlyweds usually hold some lively games and activities at home that are suitable for men and women to promote their relationship, expressing their blessings to those who come to attend their wedding. This was a special event arranged by the Huayao Empire before to increase the marriage rate. During the intense preparation period, it even became a mandatory order for the newlyweds to carry out, even if they were successfully matched in the game event held by the newlyweds. When the number of couples reaches 10, the empire will give the couple a big gift. However, after the two empires signed an agreement, this mandatory order became a simple blessing custom, which can be held or not. Feng Lanyan has always loved romance and loved watching lovers match up, so she continued this blessing custom and arranged some games and activities in the manner to promote goodwill between men and women. Su Lianhua and Qin Shaiyu also led the people from the Orc Empire to rub their bellies and came over to give blessings as if they were full. Second sister, second brother-in-law, I wish you a happy wedding, a happy marriage, and a long life together. Feng Yuyu's eyes sparkled, and there was a pleasant smile on her enchanting face. Then she turned to look at Bai Qianchun beside her. As expected, the smile on her face at this time was more genuine and gentle than when others were sending blessings. Thank you, sister. Feng Yuyu also perked up, looked at Su Lianhua with a grin and said, Sister, are you going to play games? If you like someone, we can help you cheat. Hurry up and get married. He doesn't like the fact that the people who can affect his wife are single. It would be great to pair them up and lock them together, so that the single ones can be used as light bulbs. It is obvious that Comrade Feng Yuyu is now very aware of danger in times of peace. After understanding the importance of Su Lianhua and others to his wife, he can predict that they will come to his wife in the future to distract his wife. The scene where he stayed alone in his empty boudoir. Feng Tingyu glanced at his son with a smile. Okay, this kid is a bit like his jealous husband. Su Lianhua was stunned by his question. I didn't pay attention to this. She just went to watch the delicious food, so she didn't have time to pay attention to men, and she didn't even have the desire to get married and have children in her heart. Qin Shaiyu, who was beside him, looked at Feng Yuyu with a pair of romantic and electrifying fox eyes, half smiling, as if he had read through his thoughts. He smiled and said, if eldest sister likes anyone, I will help make suggestions. I don't bother second brother-in-law, you can worry about it. Second brother-in-law, you should watch Sister Chun and enjoy the wedding night tonight. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Lu Zy. Chapter 507. Being stared at by Qin Shaiyu's meaningful and ambiguous smiling eyes, Feng Yuyu's thoughts were directly exposed, and he didn't blush. He put his arms around Bai Qianchun's shoulders and smiled charmingly. Thank you Shaiyu for reminding me. I will definitely do it with your sister Chun. Bai Qianchun probably vaguely realized what Feng Yuyu was going crazy about. She poked his 8-pack abs with her elbow, twisted her lips and glared at him with a smile. Get your face back quickly. Feng Yuyu's eyes suddenly softened, and he leaned forward with a smile and took a quick sip on her face. Oh, I will pick it up if my wife asks. Then he calmed down his scoundrel expression, raised his head to face Qin Shaiyu and the others opposite him, smiled gently and politely, and said, Sister, after you have finished your fun, just rest in the manor in the evening. I have already helped you, the room has been arranged. Su Lianhua smiled in a happy-go-lucky way, quite cheerfully. Then I'll bother my second brother-in-law. Let's go play for a while first. I see it's quite lively over there. Yao Wengxian, who was next to Feng Yuyu, stood up and pushed up the glasses on the bridge of his nose. He looked polite and elite and said with a smile, this is a custom of our Huayao Empire to promote the marriage rate. Why don't you join me for a while? Come over and let me introduce you. Su Lianhua was very interested, smiled and nodded at him. I'll trouble you, Xiao Yao. Qin Shaiyu also blinked at him with her charming fox eyes, and then said, I'm sorry for bothering you, Xiao Yao. Lu Wang also scratched his head naively, followed Feng with a silly smile and said, "Sorry for troublesome Xiao Yao." Yao Wengxian's smile was a little stuck, "Little Yao." The corner of his mouth twitched, as if they were calling him a maid. But he was a friend of the Orc Empire, and he seemed to have a good relationship with Feng Xiao'er and his wife. He grinned and endured it, and then acted as a guide conscientiously. "Oh, by the way, I almost forgot one thing." Su Lianhua, who had just turned around and followed Yao Wengxian for a few steps, suddenly turned around and walked back to Bai Jianchun and Feng Yuyu in a few steps. "We were on the way to this manor. I met a few people who were sneaking around and talking about wanting to settle accounts with you, second sister, to prevent them from ruining your wedding, second sister, so I tied them up first." Bai Jianchun was surprised, and then her beautiful eyes were filled with thoughtfulness. "Where are they now?" "Su Lianhua, I found a remote place nearby and stuffed it. I remember there were quite a lot of trees planted there. I can't remember exactly where they were." "Lu Wang, Shayu, do you still remember?" Qin Shayu curled her lips and smiled helplessly. "Sister, she has such a sense of direction. I remember that there was a durian tree planted in the woods to the east of the manor." Feng Yuyu raised his eyebrows. "I know that place. I'll send someone to bring them over. This matter will be left to us. Sister, you go and play. The game is about to start." "Okay, let's really go play this time." Watching them leave, Feng Yuyu put his hands around Bai Qianchun's waist and pulled her in front of him. Then he lowered his head and looked at her. He rubbed her small nose with his strong nose and breathed warm breath. Spraying on her face, she said with a low voice and a smile, "Do you have someone you suspect?" "Well, I think it's the Bai family," Bai Qianchun said as he raised his neck with a smile, tilted his head, raised her head from his arms, reached out to cover the mouth he kissed, and glared angrily. She glanced at him and said, "Be honest." This man seemed to be suffering from skin hunger these past 2 days. Whenever he had the chance, he would hold her in his arms and never let go. He would also seize every opportunity to come over and kiss her. He was not done yet. Feng Yuyu laughed softly, kissed her palm hard, and blinked obediently with a pair of smiling peach blossom eyes. "Oh, let's go back to the room and kiss again later." Bai Jianchun. When Feng Yuyu arranged for someone to bring over the people Su Lianhua had hidden, they turned out to be the ones from the Bai family. Bai Jianchun had an impression of them all because of the dream. Now Bai Zhuangquan has been imprisoned and is expected to be executed in a few days, so it is Bai Zhuangquan's wife and children who are here. Bai Zhuangquan has a total of 6 children, 5 girls and 1 boy. Only the second eldest, Bai Rupi, left home early and left the Bai family. The other children, Bai Chenjun, Bai Ruyun, Bai Rupi, Bai Rujuan, Bai Ruxin, and Bai Ruling both came. Bai Chenjun seemed to have just had his engagement broken off, and he looked a little depressed. The person who was grabbed and brought over was Wei Ru, Bai Zhuangquan's wife. She was usually jeweled and dressed richly, but today she was simply wearing an ordinary white dress. Probably because she had been tied to the ground for a long time, her white dress was now dirty and covered with dirt. There was also a very clear shoe print on her belly. At this time, she stared. She had a pair of red bloodshot eyes and disheveled hair like a shrew. As soon as she saw Bai Jianchun, she broke away from the person holding her. She strode up to Bai Jianchun with sinister eyes and pointed at her nose. He cursed crazily, "You little bitch, our family worked hard to raise you like this, but as soon as you came back you turned against us and even had us kicked out of Duke Bai's mansion. Your conscience has been eaten by dogs." Her sharp and unpleasant screams pierced the eardrums of everyone present. Bai Jianchun, who originally wanted to see how miserable they were and help the original owner to feel happy, couldn't help but frown and rubbed his temples irritably. He suddenly didn't want to mess with her anymore. Went down. Feng Yuyu also had a stern face, staring at the shrew in front of him with gloomy eyes. wishing to chop off the finger pointing at his wife. But Wei Ru had been driven crazy by the sudden change at home. She didn't realize that she was plucking the tiger's hair, and she arrogantly ordered Bai Jianchun as a matter of course, since you are married now, what about Bai Jianchun, your family is no longer yours. Return the Bai family, and then ask your husband to beg for mercy, act like a baby, and ask them to get your uncle back. From now on, you will have to rely on your uncle to help you, so don't do anything. If you know how to get Jiao, if I help your uncle this time, we won't treat you badly in the future. Bai Jianchun had a sullen face and smiled angrily. Bai Zhuangquan is a traitor to the empire. He will only die and will never come back. Wei Ru didn't believe it and stared at Bai Jianchun. The crazy man said with malice, the Feng family is so capable that they can't save even one person. It's really useless. Otherwise, you go and beg His Majesty the Emperor, you little kid. If a bitch is so beautiful, she might be able to become a white concubine if she wants to please His Majesty the Emperor. Before she could finish her words, she was slapped hard by Feng Yuyu, whose face was extremely gloomy. With a shrill ah sound, the person flew out and fell to the ground, unable to get up. The four people who came with her, Bai Chenjun, Bai Ruyun, Bai Rujuan and Bai Ruxin, were frightened and screamed and hurried over to help others. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Lu Zy. Chapter 508. Only Bai Ruling flinched, then pursed her lips, shrank her neck, and silently took a few steps back, trying to minimize her presence. She had been to Muyuan Star with Bai Chenjun, and later she even paid attention to the powerful woman Muyuan Star Master. So when she knew that Muyuan Star Master was that poor little Bai Jianchun, she could not believe it at first, and then she was filled with fear. Because she knows how the Bai family treated Bai Jianchun back then, the more powerful Bai Jianchun is, the more the Bai family will suffer in the future. Now it is indeed the case. First, her father became a heinous traitor, and later the Bai family all assets were frozen, and then they were all kicked out of the Duke's mansion without much time to clean up. All of this happened before Bai Jianchun returned to the main star, which shows how strong she is. If her nominal mother Wei Ru hadn't said that she wanted to come over to settle accounts with Bai Jianchun and force them to come together, she wouldn't have been willing to come. Anyway, she had already thought of a way out. A young count she had caught before the son really likes her, and he doesn't despise her Bai family background. He pities her for being implicated, and he also intends to marry her. This was the best retreat for her. Although it was fun to raise fish in the fish pond, in her current situation, it was undoubtedly more beneficial for her to get married and leave the Bai family, and completely cut off the family relationship with her cheap father, so she waited. After considering the pros and cons, I decided to get married. She actually came here today because she wanted to see Bai Qianchun's attitude towards them, so that she could make plans for her future. But before Bai Jianchun expressed her stance, Wei Ru stupidly went up and went crazy. Those two giant Buddhas were all offended. It's good now. There's no need to look at Bai Qianchun's attitude. They don't know, but Wei Ru is definitely doomed. Sure enough, I saw the veins on Feng Yuyu's forehead beating wildly. A pair of peach blossom eyes looked at Wei Ru, who was being helped up with a ruthless look. His voice was suppressed with anger, like an active volcano about to erupt, and he said angrily, "Give me this woman, throw it on the garbage planet." Then he grinned his teeth again and said to Wei Ru in a tone full of gloom and coldness, "My Feng family can still make you unable to leave the garbage star for the rest of your life, and you can only make a living by picking up garbage." There was blood on the corner of Wei Ru's mouth, her eyes widened in shock, and a look of panic finally appeared on her crazy and sinister face. "No, you can't, I am Bai Qianchun's aunt." The corners of Feng Yuyu's mouth curved into a bloody arc, and his dark eyes were filled with chill. "I can do it." Bai Qianchun hugged his arm and leaned against him. Then she curled her lips and looked at Wei Are You with the same coldness in her eyes. From today on, you will no longer be. In the name of Duke Bai's family, the Bai Zhuangquan branch was abolished and kicked out of the Bai family. From now on, you have no relationship with my Bai family. Then she looked at the few guards standing by and said, what are you still doing? Throw them all out. Don't dirty our place. Yes, the guard quickly came over seriously and grabbed the screaming Wei Are You, who was struggling crazily, and dragged him out. Bai Qianjun, Bai Ruyun, and Bai Ruxin immediately looked towards Bai Qianchun in panic, shaking their heads desperately and begging for mercy. No, no, you can't do this to my mother, she can't go to the garbage planet. I'm sorry, we were wrong. We shouldn't have treated you like that before. If you are broad-minded, just go around us. We promise, we will never provoke you again in the future. Bai Qianchun looked at them coldly, unmoved. Bai Qianchun must have cried and begged them back then, but did they let Bai Qianchun go? Have you ever treated her well? No. Now they were just tears of fear when they realized that they were not living a good life, rather than tears of repentance, so she was as hard-hearted as iron and said coldly, pull them down too. Bai Qianjun and the others cried and were finally dragged away with their mouths gagged. When it was Bai Ruling's turn, she quickly avoided their hands and shook her head like a rattle. No, 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 I'll go by myself, I'll go by myself. Then like a frightened rabbit, he jumped 3 times and disappeared from their sight. Fen Yuyu looked in the direction outside the manor and snorted, she knows what's going on. Then he turned back to look at Bai Qianchun. The anger and coldness in his eyes all turned into tenderness. He also lowered his voice a few degrees and coaxed, those dirty things are too annoying. Did they affect you, mood? Do you want your husband to take you to see the excitement and change your mood? Okay, Bai Qianchun raised a smile at the corner of her mouth and smiled brightly at him. After cleaning up a few scum, she was not in a bad mood. On the contrary, she was quite happy. However, Fen Yuyu wanted to take her to see the excitement to make her happy. Just refuse. On the way, the two of them also discussed the whereabouts of the rest of the Bai family. The worst Wei Are You was already scheduled to go to the garbage star to pick up garbage for the rest of her life. The other children of the Bai family were not much better. According to the investigation, they all bullied Bai Qianchun. Fen Yuyu doesn't intend to just let it go. In the end, the two of them discussed it. Bai Ruyun, Bai Rujuan, and Bai Ruxin, who had done the most harm to Bai Qianchun, threw them onto the deserted star and left them to fend for themselves. As for Bai Qianjun and Bai Ruxin, who had done less harm to Bai Qianchun, Ru Ling and the two just ignored them. Without the protection of the Bai family, Bai Qianjun, who used to bully others despite being well off, will surely suffer a backlash. As for Bai Ruling, she is smart, but if she goes further, she will definitely not be able to live a better life than before in the Bai family. In addition, in Bai Qianchun's dream, Bai Ruling was kind enough to give her some advice. Bai Qianchun doesn't want to do anything to her. Whether she lives well or not depends entirely on her. After Bai Qianchun and Fen Yuyu watched the lively games and a beautiful fireworks show, they held hands and walked slowly back to their new house. As soon as the door to the room opened, Fen Yuyu immediately changed his previous leisurely attitude and directly picked up the person next to him. Then he turned around and kicked the door shut, then excitedly hugged the beautiful woman in his arms and went straight to the big red bed. Bai Qianchun was caught off guard and was startled. She subconsciously raised her head from his arms and looked at his charming handsome face that was red with excitement and anticipation. He lowered his eyes and looked at her peach blossom eyes with affection and joy. The tail of his eyes was filled with tears. The excitement gradually faded away the two charming red marks. Under the ambiguous orange light, his face looked evil and thrilling. Her eyes softened, showing a hint of hazy drunkenness, and then she chuckled softly, and her white jade-like arms stretched out to hook his neck. Fen Yuyu's eyes suddenly brightened, and he couldn't wait to put her on the bed, and he leaned over her. In the dark night, the manor was bustling with activity, and the temperature in a room full of red rose sharply, and then gradually entered a good state. After a long time, a charming and hoarse voice suddenly came from the room. "Hey, you beast, go kneel on the durian tomorrow." Someone replied with a satisfied voice and a smile, "Okay, you can kneel down to him with 10 durians. Wife, I love you. I will give you all the property in my name tomorrow, okay? You can give me pocket money from now on. Well, then will I replace you as the richest man in the universe." "Ha ha ha, yes, you are the richest man in the world. From now on, I will be waiting for you to eat soft rice. Hey, I can become the richest man in the world on my own. Yes, yes, my wife is the most powerful. La la, this article will be finished soon, I will start writing the extra chapter tomorrow." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 509. The Feng family's manor is picturesque, with red silk flying in the air. At night, exquisite red lanterns hang under the eaves and on the tree tops, creating a unique scenery. In addition, one after another twinkles in the dark night sky. Fireworks are brighter and more colorful than the stars. In short, the romance of marriage is extremely strong. Due to the influence of this atmosphere, the unmarried men and women became a little shy and agitated. The timid ones were shy, and they only showed a pair of big eyes and looked around shyly. The bolder ones would look around with bright eyes and admiration. They would not be afraid of being caught. Instead, they would continue watching confidently, and even go directly to invite their favorite person to participate in tonight's game. After a while, there were already many pairs who looked at each other and were ready to try forming temporary teammates. At this time, Yao Wengxian also led Su Lianhua and several other hillbillies from the Orc Empire over. Qin Sheiyu's romantic and passionate fox eyes are electric, and she is looking here and there with great interest. She is looking here and there, and when she sees a beautiful girl, she will show a sultry smile to flirt with her. She has a handsome and charming peach blossom face. It is full of eagerness to try. As he walked, he said with interest and a smile on his lips, "Sister, Huayao Empire is so fun. There is such a matching game." This was really in line with his wishes. It was simply the perfect place for him to hunt for women. He subconsciously took out a folding fan and played with it, looking like a handsome, carefree, and elegant young man. Before Qin Sheiyu came through, the original owner of this body, Hu Sheiyu, was a real romantic dude. He liked to be arty and collect some exquisite antique albums and the like. Qin Sheiyu was from a noble family in the ancient martial arts world in his previous life, but later, the whole family was wiped out and he was left alone to avoid being hunted. He was a little miserable, so he also knew and loved these antiques and had a very good appreciation of them. So after dressing up as the prince of the Orc Empire, he kept all the favorite things of the original owner with him and never threw them away. No, the scene at night was very artistic, and he could show off with a folding fan. The effect was indeed very good. Many beautiful girls around him were attracted by his fan, and then by his handsome face, and their eyes shone. A seductive smile appeared on Qin Sheiyu's lips, and she winked at them, looking cool and carefree, looking like she was playing with the world, and her expression was quite complacent. Yao Wengxian's mouth twitched when he saw the peacock spreading its wings, and then he smiled and said, "Why don't you find a partner to play with, Prince Fox?" Although the Huayao Empire and the Orc Empire have not yet introduced a miscegenation policy, but it's still free to fall in love. Qin Sheiyu's eyes suddenly lit up, but before he could think about it, an iron palm slapped him on the back of the head, and the charming smile on his face suddenly froze. Turning around, he saw Su Lianhua looking at him with disapproval. Any relationship that is not predicated on marriage is just a hooligan. Have you forgotten those girls you provoked before? My second sister and I will not clean up your mess. Qin Shaiyu looked at her with aggrieved eyes and complained, Sister, your thinking is too old-fashioned. Isn't it just a matter of falling in love? It's something you and I both agree on. Those things that haunted me before and wouldn't let go, little girls, are all accidents. Who said I am too charming? I must restrain myself this time. And falling in love is a good thing. Only after dating do you know whether two people are suitable for each other. If not, of course you have to separate and then find another one. I just never found my true love before, so I talked about it again and again, and I've never cheated on someone in two different ways, so I don't think I'm a scumbag playing hooligans. Su Lianhua had never been familiar with this aspect. When she heard what he said so confidently, her serious face softened a little, and she looked suspicious. Really? Qin Shaiyu nodded obediently. Really? Su Lianhua relaxed her frown and said, Okay, then you go and play. I'll follow Xiao Yao and continue walking around. Xiao Yao Yao Wengxian. Qin Shaiyu didn't leave in a hurry, but smiled and asked, Sister, do you have someone you like? Sister Chun is already married, but you haven't even been in love. This can't be done. Life is not the same no matter how many relationships you are in, it is not perfect. Love, oh, what is love? Sorry, I only need a princess. There is no way to try. A cold male voice came from not far away, interrupting Qin Shaiyu's rambling words to induce Su Lianhua to fall in love. Qin Shaiyu choked and turned to look in the direction of the sound. Su Lianhua was faster and alert. Almost as soon as the sound rang out, her eyes sharply pierced in that direction. It was a secluded place outside of the bustle. Under the big tree, the light from the small lantern could not shine that far, so it was a bit dark and relatively secluded. At this moment, a man and a woman were standing face to face in that place, and there was a guard standing a few steps away. Hey, isn't that His Highness the Crown Prince? Yao Wengxian pushed up his glasses. He was surprised at first, and then became a little more understanding. Today, when the emperor attends Feng Xiao's wedding, he will definitely be irritated. The unlucky one is His Highness, so it's not surprising that he appears here. Oh, I've met Qin Yuchen, the prince of the Huayao Empire. Apart from Sister Chun's husband, he is the best-looking man. It is said that he is the #1 single male god in Huayao. Qin Shaiyu's eyes were shining, and he looked again. The eldest sister beside her touched her chin, with a thoughtful smile on her face. Then he said with a smile, Sister, this crown prince seems to have the same philosophy as you. They are all about love based on marriage. Su Lianhua squinted her eyes and looked at Qin Yuchen's frosty handsome face. She nodded with satisfaction. He looks like a better man than you. Qin Shaiyu was stabbed in the chest and felt like vomiting blood. Is this what he said? Why doesn't the eldest sister understand? He is trying to match up. It seemed to him that apart from Sister Chun's husband, the prince of the empire had the best conditions. Only the best could be worthy of their eldest sister, but the eldest sister didn't cooperate and stabbed him back. He was depressed. He sighed, turned his head and cast his gaze on the woman opposite Qin Yuchen, and asked Yao Wengxian, who is she? Yao Wengxian smiled and said with a bit of gossip, the name of the Shui family is Shui Yingxin. She is His Highness the Crown Prince's childhood sweetheart. She has always wanted to be the Crown Princess, but His Highness the Crown Prince seems to have no interest in her. Oh, Qin Shaiyu nodded and heard. Qin Yuchen's words just now meant to reject others. Yes, if you know where to draw the line, and if a man can get rid of the rotten peach blossoms, he is a good man. Obviously, Qin Shaiyu, who was evaluating others, didn't expect his own philandering and double standards. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 510. Qin Yuchen looked at Shui Yingxin, who was about to cry. His eagle eyes were sharp and unchanging, and his voice was cold and ruthless. I told you that you are not suitable to be my crown princess, but you didn't give it a try. Please step aside. Shui Yingxin, with a pale and ugly face, stretched out her hand to grab Qin Yuchen's clothes and stop him, but she failed. Qin Yuchen avoided it. She was unwilling to give in. She looked at him with her eyes, her voice was pleading and crying, why is it not suitable? We obviously had a good relationship when we were young. We used to dance together at the opening dance of every banquet. Why do you say no now? It's not suitable anymore. I'm looking forward to being your crown princess. It's been more than 30 years, brother Chen. Qin Yuchen stopped, his eyes fell sharply on her face, and a cold aura came over her face. I didn't want to say something unpleasant, don't you know why I can't? Shui Yingxin was looked at by his sharp eyes, and she couldn't help but tremble in her heart. Her eyes flickered for a moment, but she quickly gathered her energy again and looked at him with a stubborn face. No, I don't know. Oh, I won't admit it. Qin Yuchen sneered with the corner of his mouth pulled, and the last pity in his eyes disappeared, turning into indifference. He looked at her as if he was looking at a stranger, his eyes were as sharp as knives, and his voice was as cold as the ice of the far north, extremely cold. Although you were not a genius before, you were still smart and naive, lively and delicate. But now that you have become more sophisticated, you have become arrogant, selfish, ruthless, and just like those greedy people. Spread your reputation outside. You know how much is true, you also know who is behind the rumors that you are the future crown princess. You know even more clearly how many women you have persecuted for the sake of this crown princess, and you think such methods are dirty. Is a person with an ugly mind worthy of being a princess? Even if the crown princess I need cannot be by my side, she has a pure mind and has no ill will toward others or the empire. She cannot use her power to oppress others. If you can't do that, why should I choose you to be the crown princess? Shui Yingxin couldn't breathe as she answered every question. Her face turned pale, her eyes were dull, and she was filled with a look of astonishment. He knew that he actually knew everything. Why did she become like this now, with a bright skin and an ugly mind? It's all because of him, because of him. He is cold and aloof, noble, and has great skills. He is the prince of the empire that is praised by everyone. The older he grows, the more outstanding his abilities become, and the more he becomes unattainable. But she is not a genius, she is only a little smarter than ordinary people, and she is not much better than girls of the same age. It is only because of her status as a princess of the Shui family that she can stand out among the noble ladies with their own talents. The older she grew, the more aware she was of the gap between herself and him, so she began to feel inferior, began to doubt herself, began to be jealous of those noble ladies who were smarter, more beautiful and talented than her, and began to be paranoid. She didn't allow anyone to covet him, and she couldn't stand anyone coveting him. In order to ensure that he could only choose herself, she used the power of the Shui family to get rid of the women who admired him and moved towards him one after another. Is it really wrong for her to do so much to become his crown princess? Seeing Shui Yingxin's eyes gradually losing their brilliance and becoming dim, her whole figure quickly withering like a flower that has lost its moisture, Qin Yuchen frowned, but didn't pay any more attention to it. He had already given enough. There was a chance, but she still refused to change her ways, so the friendship between them as childhood sweethearts was over. He turned his head and glanced at the people led by Yao Wengxian a few steps away. Several pairs of bright eyes were looking at him, as if they were watching a circus. Especially a certain woman, who was watching the circus with curious eyes. Unable to ignore it, his cold face collapsed and the corners of his mouth twitched. Then he turned away and walked towards the outside of the manor with his long legs. But before he had even taken 2 steps, the guard who had been guarding a few steps behind him immediately caught up and stood in front of him, saying sternly, "Your Highness, the Empress said that you must find a female companion to play games with you tonight, otherwise the photo of you peeing your pants will be published on the Star Network for everyone in the Empire to see. The Empress also said that your current position as Crown Prince is very secure and no one will compete with you. This is harmless. She can still afford a small scandal." Photos of people peeing their pants. Qin Shi Yu couldn't hold back his laughter. Lu Wang and the Orc Empire guards behind him also had the same expressions and laughed out loud. Su Lianhua also raised the corners of her mouth, and her bright and cheerful face was filled with a smile. Even Yao Wengxian couldn't help but shrugged his shoulders with laughter. He thought to himself that the Empress would do anything to force His Highness to find a wife. This time she was ruthless. As for the client himself, Qin Yuchen, couldn't laugh at all. His face was livid and ugly. He glared at the guard in front of him who looked fierce and fearless in delivering the message. He then turned his head and glanced at Qin Shi Yu and Yao Wengxian in warning, and finally looked at them. Falling on Su Lianhua's smiling face, her eyes darkened for a moment. Su Lianhua's heart tightened when he stared at her, and her smile immediately faded and she became alert. He came over. What did he want to do? Could it be that he wanted to kill people and silence them? Su Lianhua's body tensed and she looked at the man who had stopped 2 steps away in front of her. Her eyes narrowed, as if she was ready to fight back at any time if he hit him. However, unexpectedly, he did take action, but he just stretched out his hand and spread it in front of her. Su Lianhua lowered her head and looked at his textured palm. Her face was confused for a moment, then she looked up into his eyes again. "What are you doing? Invite me." Qin Yuchen's thin lips slowly raised up on his stern face, revealing a smile, noble and elegant. "Yes, since my scandal has been heard by you, and you are the only one with the right gender here, I would like to ask you to cooperate with me. Is that okay, Miss Su? The prizes you win in a while can be yours. The prizes in the live game are all from the Feng family and Wu Yuan Star, including the latest developed energy swords, mechas, daggers, lanterns, or some delicious fruit dishes, etc. thing." Su Lianhua's eyes suddenly lit up. She wanted all these prizes. Weapons, mechas, and the like were all things she didn't like because of her occupational disease in her previous life. There were also fruits, dishes, and other items that she had lacked both in her previous life and in this life. Love. She immediately wanted to agree, but Qin Shi Yu, who had already noticed something coming, immediately came over and playfully interrupted, "Sister, if you want a prize, you can team up with me." "There is no need to team up with Huayao. The prince forms a team." Qin Yuchen's eyes darkened for a moment, then he raised his eyes and his smile cooled down. He glanced at him lightly and said, "The game will involve the internal culture of the Huayao Empire. Are you sure you can win?"